Look at the moon. What a nice morning, Lisa. Be even nicer if you don't run away from me. Let's see how we go. I'll keep my eye on her. But yes, good morning. Here we are out again. Me and Pal's got new pillows the other day, and I swear to God, it's like being a game changer. It's actually been a game changer. Still not perfect, admittedly, but a lot better than what we had, which I'll take. I'm not waking up with shoulder pain, which is what we wanted. That's what we wanted. It's really funny. Me and Pels were talking yesterday, and we'd seen basically that there was a protest on the weekend against the rollout of digital ID in the UK. And we were just, I don't know, we were just commenting on the protest, I guess, because, you know, we met at a protest. We went to quite a few protests back in the day, anti-lockdown ones and whatnot. And, you know, thinking that, I guess we were kind of taking action and it was doing something, and we were going to stop the lockdowns and we were going to wake people up and, you know, etc, etc, etc. But then, I guess as you get further into it, you realise that actually it's not going to do nothing. And in a sense, it's all pointless. At least protesting in that form, I would say, is pointless. The thing that I compare it to now is politics. Politics and protesting go hand in hand. You got to think about democracy, right? Why did they let you vote? Well, they let you vote to give you the illusion that you have some sort of control. Why did they let you protest? To give you the illusion that you have some sort of control. And what does that illusion offer you? Well, it offers you a feeling. It offers you a feeling that you actually have control over your destiny in this shape or form, right? Of course, we all have control over our destinies. But when it comes to government, we absolutely do not. And if 2020 and all that whole era was anything to go by, we should learn by now that the government is going to do what the government is going to do regardless. And yes, there are ways to stop the government from doing these things, but unfortunately for us in the UK, everyone is so burdened by debt that they can't afford to do what it takes to actually take back our country. Instead, they rather spend a couple hours on the weekend protesting, if not, they'll be in the pub watching the football. But that isn't going to change anything, right? We're just going round in this cycle of, I don't like what the government's doing, I'll get upset about it, let's get a new government in, maybe they'll be different. And it doesn't matter what side of the fence of you are, the middle, the left or the right, as long as there is a government, it doesn't matter what mask it has, it doesn't matter what party it is aligned to, it doesn't matter what bullshit it tells you about what it's going to change. As long as you have a government, you will experience the same shit, because the person leading the government isn't the problem, it's the government itself, it's the system, right? The system's rotten from the core. No amount of power should be handed to few individuals. And the problem is that we vote these people in power to look after us, not realising that those people in power aren't looking after us, they're looking after each other, because they're all part of the same gang. And we ain't in it. Yeah, just been reflecting on the protest, because it's interesting. It's like, okay, if protesting is like voting and you know that it's doing nothing, then why are you going? Do you know what I mean? But if you don't go, then what do you do? Because you've got to do something, right? And I think this is where we trip up. We think, we get distracted by going to protest thinking that it's doing something, that it's going to change something, not realising that if we want to change the system that we are in, the change comes from within. First, we must take care of our own shit. First, we must get our mind in order, our emotions in order, our body in order, our spirit in order, right? And secondly, we must become ungovernable. That is how you take back your country. It's not by trying to force a new prime minister in or a new government in, or even raging and shouting about the things that they're doing that you don't like, because they have the power to just let you do that and not listen anyway. What we must do is we must become ungovernable. A lot of people say fuck the system, right? Fuck the government. But if the government was taken away today, just gone, out of existence, what would happen? Society would collapse. If society collapsed, would you be able to survive? Most people, it's a no. I rely on the government for my water source. All right, I might know a few areas around here that I can get it, so I could manage my food. I don't have the ability to grow my own food, at least enough to sustain me for what I would need. So I rely on the government for that. The supply chains would collapse. My shelter and things like that. Again, people rely on these things for their governments. Power, of course, that would go as well. So we say fuck the government, but we need the government. And I don't mean that as in like forever, but I'm just saying is that if you're trying to go against the very system that you rely on, really you're fighting yourself, and it's a losing battle. And this is the thing, really, what we experience when we go to these protests is our own inner chaos. It's our own inner turmoil. It's our own problems manifesting outward against this machine that we can project it all on, because it makes us feel better to get it out in that way. Not realizing that we're just avoiding our own problems, and that's what's actually causing us to stay stuck in the situation that we don't like. But it's too hard for people to face. It's exactly the same reason why we take drugs and alcohol and watch endless things on the internet and entertain ourselves mindless, and gambling, pornography, all this shit. It's to distract us from the inner chaos. But the thing is that you're probably still experiencing that chaos, even if you do try to ignore it. As much as we try, you're just, you're always going to be met with it. And this is speaking from experience, because, for all the good intentions that me and Pels had going to the protest, and, we met some great people, we met some bad people, we had some good times and we had some bad times whilst doing all this stuff. Fast forward a couple of years and I realized that, a lot of that shit is what I'm talking about. I was scared of what was happening. I felt powerless. So that was my way of trying to get my power back, by taking control and going to these protests where I thought that I was making a change. But obviously that wasn't the case. What really happened, or what I really have learned, is actually, in order to get my power back, first, I have it anyway. Secondly, it involves taking the actions that prepares yourself to become independent from the state. That means, your ability to have your own food, water, shelter, power, barterability. These are things that allow you to become ungovernable. But until you start moving in that direction of ungovernability, you need the government. So you cannot destroy the system. And, the commercial mainstream version of this is the fact that most people don't like the government, don't protest against it, don't take any action whatsoever, but they just go about their lives, even though they're miserable, even though they're upset, just keeping their head down, because they would prefer to go along with the system that they hate rather than create a new one, because they don't know what that new one looks like. So it's kind of like, what's the saying, the enemy you know better than whatever. The one. It's too early in the morning for my brain to be thinking on that. But it's just, it's just interesting to see like these protests coming up against digital ID, and it's like, okay, we were talking about this from 2020s, some of us a lot sooner than that, and here it is, they're doing it, and now you're protesting against it. But like, have we not learned nothing? Have we not learned that this just goes round in circles and we're just wasting time? It's just like, I see a lot of people now that used to go protest without these things, and I'm just like, you guys are still doing it, man. Which, that's cool, that's their journey, but I guess the sad part is that if we actually want to stop this shit, we have to take actual action that's going to stop this shit, not this pantomime shit that makes us feel good but does nothing else. But yeah, those are just my thoughts on the matter. I thought I would just share them, and probably I'm going to turn the camera around and the battery has died, which is good. No, it hasn't. We're still here. Niece is over here chilling, vibing, and all is good in the realm. But yeah, I think the reality is the world can be a scary place. The world can be very fearful. We can look at the things that are going on, Agenda for 2030, digital ID, the new banking system that's coming, that's going to, be digital, online only, and everything that comes with governments having this type of power and even autonomy over our lives, and think, fuck, the walls are closing in, what do I do? But first and foremost, focusing on these things and being scared and worried about them is not going to help the situation, whatever situation that you're in.